Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate, a Star Wars Unlimited podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We have an amazing episode 2 planned, and yes, folks, if you didn't know, we had a X-Wing podcast that we run every Sunday night at 9, and now we have a brand new Star Wars Unlimited podcast that we are running. So if you're joining us from the X-Wing community, new to Star Wars Unlimited, hey, welcome to the club. We're all here. We're all excited for the game, and we're ready to show everyone. Tonight, we've got spoilers. It's spoiler season again, baby. And there's so many bloody cards, and I know Alex is excited and biting at the chomp to tell JJ how wrong he is about every single one of these cards tonight. So tonight we're going to be talking about the spoiler cards, as well as we're going to introduce the first of our brand new segments, which we are going to call For a Cause I Believe In. And folks, this is our casual topic one where we're going to be talking about local metas. We'll be talking about decks people submit. And tonight we had a friendly listener reach out and say, hey, Chris, I got this Leia Yellow deck. I know it's a little bit different. It's my first take. And what we want you to do is, hey, tell us what you feel can improve this or not. So we're going to go through that deck a little bit tonight. We're going to talk about some of the changes that we would make. But we are also, and I'll say this not lightly, but we are also going to be talking about how you can make it budget friendly if you don't have all the cards, and how you can make it more competitive if you do have access to every one of the cards. Now, with that being said, why don't I bring in my co-host for tonight? Please welcome to the show, JJ, the worst hat nominated by everybody who listens to the show. How are you tonight, JJ?
Doing all right, man. Still tinkering away with different decks, man. Like I spent like a good 2 hours the other day just trying to work a space heavy deck, having a bunch of Sentinels in there, and just finding the right commander in there. For me, I was settling on Han for a while, just because I feel like he could ramp up to some of those larger ships a lot better. But yeah, just tinkering away with all the different stuff and seeing some of these new releases that are coming out. I can't wait to like make it even stronger.
Awesome. Also joining me tonight is the bench warmer, Mr. Alex. How are you tonight, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about some of the new cards. Got a lot of practice in this week, so
it's crazy, right? Like, it's really crazy that we're getting spoilers already. It's just like, especially compared to like living in X-Wing world, like when we used to get like 3 packs a year, man, holy crap, that was amazing. Now all of a sudden we're like, here's 10 new cards. How are you going to make them work in your decks today?
And they got a bunch of cool ships from X-Wing on them.
I know.
T-Rex.
I know, that's so much fun. Yeah, so a little bit of, we'll talk a little bit about like what we did. So this weekend was kind of fun. I got to play in a draft tournament this weekend. I took my nephew. It was $15, so that was like, we couldn't believe it was only $15. They gave us a weekly play pack and 3 packs to draft with. I was like, oh my gosh, I just couldn't pass that up. Like, that was such a good deal. My weekly packs, I have almost all the weekly cards. I need a Bosk and a Bosk foil, and I need a Death Trooper. Somehow I still haven't pulled one of those Death Troopers, or not Death Troopers, the Stormtroopers. Sorry, I have 4 Death Troopers, no Stormtroopers, and those are like, I need that because I run that card all the time.
I know how you feel. I pulled 3 Sabine Hollows before I drew a Tarkin, who's common.
Wow. Well, if you would like to trade, I have Tarkins coming out my butt too.
Not Tarkins.
Okay.
It just took me like 15 packs
to get it. Jeez. So that was kind of fun. I went 3-1, and it was hilarious because I built it started out with Chewie, right? So I had 2 Chewies in the 3 packs. I had 2 Chewies and a Director Krennic. So I kept the Krennic and passed the Chewies to my nephew. The pack that came next had a Leia and a Chewie in it. And so I was like, well, I'm going to take the Leia, and then passed it. And then the third card I got was a freaking Chewie again. So then I was like, well, I got Chewie, Leia, and Krennic. And then when we started drafting cards, like the guy next to me was looked like he was going to run a Sabine Rebel. but wasn't taking all of the good rebel cards. He was taking all the red rebels. So I was like, all right, well, here's neutral rebels for me. And like, he wasn't taking any green or blue rebels. So it worked out really well for me. So I just decided, I was like, screw it. I'm going to run a Chewie deck. I'm going to run a green and blue Chewie deck and call it a day. And we did best of one. So we didn't do the best of three, but it still was pretty fun. The first game, I crushed my nephew completely and I felt bad. The second game came down to, they had 20 damage to my base, and then all of a sudden here comes Chewie just chinking away. They're clinking away. And then the third game I played against a Sabine, and then they didn't bring the Sabine out till like round 5 or whatever, and I didn't know why. And then I was like, all right, well, that works for me. And then you just keep putting Sentinel out, and if you didn't know, in draft, Sentinel's real good. So the last game I played was against a Boba Green deck, and I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be absolutely kidding me. And then they, of course, got like decent amount of Boba cards they needed. They didn't pull a Boba Fett, but for a draft, they had a really good, they had like a Bosk or two in there, and it just like, I was able, we went like 10, almost 10 rounds, and he finally killed me on 10 rounds. But they did I don't remember what play he did, but he did something, a strike first or something like that, and killed Chewie in 1 round. Like, it was just like, gone. Wow. See ya. I was like, oh, thanks. All right. Well, that's the end of the game, but it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, Chewie can be kind of a crazy in draft or like sealed, just because he forces you to hit into Sentinels, and that's that slows down the game a lot. And then Chewbacca himself is really, really strong when he comes out. So hard to deal with when you don't have like a ton of removal or anything in your deck.
Yeah.
And especially in the non-sealed and just the draft format where you only play with the 45 cards or whatever, or 30 cards, it's really hard to have a bunch of removal. You just don't have that. It doesn't exist as much unless you get lucky. Like I had 2 takedowns and a vanquish. So
that's insane.
That it was like people just kept passing them. So I was like, I'm going to take these right away. And then my nephew and I ended up with 2 legendaries out of it too. So like we got a change of heart, and I got Mace Windu. Like I needed a change of heart. I don't need a Mace Windu. So if you live in Michigan and you want to change a Mace Windu for something, let me know. I found out selling in-store credit did not even equal the value of I just needed a red 3, and like I couldn't even get a straight up trade for that. So I was like, all right, well,
that sucks.
I'll just buy the red 3 and I'll keep the Mace Windu. Somebody will need a Mace Windu at some point.
Yeah, and the store champs show up, and then now everyone has Mace Windus, though. Mm-hmm. That's the only problem.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, JJ, I'll sell you a Mace Windu when I send you all the cards that I'm going to send you. So if you would like to buy one and add on the extra money, I'll happily send it to you. Because I have 4 of them. Like, I don't know. I could probably send you 2, I guess, at this point. I don't know if I'll ever run 3 Mace Windu in a deck.
But. Oh, I like Mace Windu. Like, he can do some work. You just have to make sure you build your deck out right. I had him in a Leia deck for a while, and that worked pretty well.
Yep, I see him in Leia, and I think that it works. If you run like a Luke Red, I could kind of see it in the Luke Red really well too, because it gives you that. Who are you going to kill? Are you going to hit Luke, or are you going to hit Mace?
Or like a red Chariot deck. That's also really good because there's a lot of Force things in Chariot. So like you get Obi, Luke, and Mace, and Yoda, and Kanan. You can Guardian of the Wills if you want some more Force units. So it works. It works pretty well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I think what we'll do is, why don't we go ahead and we're going to begin with our For a Cause segment. For a Cause I Believe In is essentially our casual, light-hearted in nature topics. Tonight we're going to be reviewing a deck that a listener submitted to us, and we're going to be kind of critiquing what that deck is. So tonight, up on first batch is a Leia, and it's a deck called Currently Have with Leia. All right. So here's that for you. So I don't know, JJ, why don't you read off to us what that deck is, or what that list is, and we can kind of go from there.
So we have Leia as our leader, followed by a yellow aspect with chopper base. Starting at the top here, we got Rebel Ceremony. Got 2 copies of that in the list. Then we have a Shoot First. We got 3 copies of that in the list as well. Followed by R2D2, 3 copies of that. 2 copies of Battlefield Marines. 2 copies of the Leia card on there. We got 3 copies of Asteroid Sanctuary. We have another 3 copies of Surprise Strike, 3 copies of the Alliance X-Wing, 1 single copy of Admiral Akbar, 3 copies of the Sentinel Echo Base Defender. Then we have another 3 copies of Ezra Bridger, followed by another 3 of Rogue Operative. Got another 3 Fleet Lieutenant, as well as Wing Leader. And then we have a copy of You're My Only Hope, followed by Bright Hope Crew, Bright Hope Ship, 3 copies of that. And then we got General Dodonna, Chewbacca, and Han Solo to round off the list there.
Yeah, you got 2 Dodonna, 3 Chewie, and double Han.
Yeah.
They're still going by the numbers.
Yeah, definitely really nice. I like the inclusion of having both Sentinels, both on ground and in space. Bright Hope is just a really, really solid space card with that Sentinel on there, just allowing you to at least shore up that portion of the board so that we can concentrate more on the ground game, and having both that 3 copies of Chewie on there, even though he's a 5 cost. Man, Chewie is a beast. I like Chewie a lot.
So do you think Chewie is the best Sentinel for 5 costs?
He's one of my considerations when I'm taking a look at a high health and high damage dealing like units up there. It really depends on the rest of the list if I can ramp up to get him up there faster. But I think he's a very, very solid card for what he can do.
Yeah, I think Chewbacca is an underrated card. I'm not totally sold on 3 in this deck, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But he can really just muck a lot of things up just by having a Sentinel with 6 health, and also, he ready when you hit him, so he can actually trade really, really well with other pieces.
Yeah, because essentially, if you don't do the 5 damage to him right, like he's gonna swing back unless you've already claimed for whatever reason,
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have a lot of like smaller units, that's really not good because Chewbacca can like swing, and then you're forced to either swing into Chewbacca or do something else. But every time you swing into him, he doesn't even have to swing back, right? He can just hit your base for another 3.
Yes. What I really like to do if you have him in like a blue yellow deck is give him what is it, the Protectorate or some, or is it the Electro Staff is for 2, or there's like a Protectorate card that you can give him that just gives him like insane amount of stats, just like off the chart.
Yeah, the Electro Staff gives him +2/+2. Anyone attacking him gets -1/-0. So he just you swing in weaker, and he hits harder, making him like a 5/8. And then you can give him something like Resilient, which is like +0/+3. So then he's got like 9 health, and then whatever else you stack on him. If you happen to run like a yellow Chariot deck, that's definitely an interesting option with between the Electro Staff and your Spectre crew and the blue crew. You'll have Kanan, Ezra, all that kind of stuff. So, do we want to talk about what kind of critiques I have about this, or what he should look out in the future? Or
Definitely.
Okay, so my initial looking at this, I mean, it's solid. Obviously, it's he's just making a deck with what cards he has. Totally fair. Not going crazy. It's just space is kind of weak. I mean, you have Bright Hope, which is nice. I think that's also a very underrated card because there's very little Sentinels in space, and that can lose you games if you don't have like enough space support. So, but it's just between the triple X-Wing and the triple Wing Leader, you don't really have a lot of offensive output. So Star Vipers are definitely something to consider. They're 3/3 if you have the initiative, which you generally do with Leia because you're so efficient with Leia's ability. You get Restore 2. I mean, it's not they're not Rebel cards, so you don't really get the Leia's ability off of them. but they definitely help out in space. Another consideration is maybe the Ozatux. They're also not rebel, but they do come in with ambush, and they're decently sturdy. Their ships are made out of wood somehow.
Space wood.
The space wood, man,
Yeah, I did.
with Wookiee juju on it or something.
Technically, that's what they're made out of, is really strong space wood. But they're a solid option. I just the space is a little bit weak here.
And I agree with you. I think those Star Vipers, for the stat value, it's a 3/3/3. To me, that's like, I don't. The restore is just a benefit if I get it. And with Leia, you're usually taking initiative for the most part. Leia Yellow's a little bit different, but for the most part, Leia's almost always taking initiative. And to me, that's really good. Like, I would include, at least 3 of them, and I would drop one of those X-Wings. I don't know if I want it. That 2-cost X-Wing is, yeah.
They're not
okay.
bad with Leia because they are rebels, right? And you don't get
True.
that with the Star Viper.
True.
But they're still X-Wings. They're really not that great, especially if you have lower costing units like you do in this. Another, just maybe. It's not a very fast deck, which is kind of what you want with Leia. So you don't have escort skiffs. Actually, would be pretty interesting in this deck. I think they're very underrated cards. Are the 4/4 for 4. If you have a green unit, they gain ambush, and that's a really nice when you have like echo-based defenders, battlefield marines. Bright Hope, that's going to stick around for a little bit. That's going to be your green unit. And they're not bad if you're looking for just more of an offensive push to clear out units to get into the base with the rest of your stuff.
Yeah. I would agree. I kind of agree with that. I think the Snow Speeder is also is that what it's called? The Snow Speeder?
Well, there's a Snow Speeder, which is like the neutral hero, or like the Rogue Squadron Skirmisher, which is the green unit.
Yes, that's the green unit is the one I like.
The 4/6/4/6
Yes.
as ambush unless you pull a card that costs 2 or less from your discard pile.
Yes. Like, I don't know if I would include that as a main card in the deck, but maybe a sideboard card. I feel that card is pretty strong in green. I think if you're playing against an aggro deck, by that point it's probably not as beneficial. But if you're playing against some sort of control decks, I like it.
Yeah, it's worth noting the sideboard here is triple Waylay, triple Rogue Operative, or not Rogue Operative, Rebel Pathfinder, sorry, and triple Bamboozle. And the Bamboozles,
no,
it's okay. You don't really need to exhaust things in this style of deck. You already have triple Leia, you have triple Asteroid Sanctuary, which works well with like Ezra and your echo-based defenders, right? Just to give them shields, your fleet lieutenants. So you probably don't need the Bamboozle, but I can see why if you are going against a lot of decks that flood everything, Bamboozle can make sense. Not main decking Waylay is you don't see it much. Waylay to me is okay, but I feel like this deck might struggle a little bit with just bigger threats, especially late game. That Waylay might help solve. Like if someone drops like not even something like super problematic, maybe like their own Chewbacca, right? Where it's like, okay, this is a little bit annoying to deal with, but not like critical. A Waylay is pretty nice just to have, or if they have any of your +1/+1s like Dodonna or Veers, it's nice to Waylay that back in, and that might actually cause some units to die from the threshold, because they were living because they had 1 health left off of Veers or something. So it's just a nice utility card in there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think Waylay is really good in this style of deck. I think, like, I don't understand the Akbar if you're only going to run one of them. I think that's just, to me, that's like, let's just cut it. Either run it or don't run it. Like, to me, that's kind of the
Akbars are rare, so they might just have one.
Okay, fair enough.
which is fair.
Yeah.
So if the reason you're running that is because you only have one, then okay, I understand that. I would pull the Akbar out if I don't have at least 2 copies in the deck personally, though, just because I don't the one off. It's the consistency is just not there.
Yeah, honestly, You're My Only Hope is also a rare. So if you actually pull out both Akbar and You're My Only Hope and put in 2 Waylays, they cost the same, and you might just have a little bit more consistency with that.
Yeah, I would that one I would 100% agree with. I would also up my Hans to 3. Like you, the
It's another
issue.
rare.
Yeah, which if you need Hans, I got extra Hans. So I think I've given away like 7 Hans. Seriously,
That's
I'm dead
awesome.
serious. Like I got so many Hans. Like one time one was because it was like a hyperfoil Han, so that's why I had like I got 2 Hans in one pack. Like I was like, okay, cool, I guess. I traded the hyperfoil Han. I don't remember for what, probably something that wasn't worth it. But at the time, the Hans weren't going for very much. So
I have 3 Hans, and that's because one of them comes in the starter pack.
oh, no, that's true. I forgot about starter pack Hans, so I have all those Hans too. So.
Yeah. Also, if you have 2 Star Vipers, take out an X-wing and a wing leader. I'd also probably swap 1 Chewbacca for Dodonna, just kind of keep the pressure on.
Yeah,
and that's pretty solid.
Yeah, and I'm not super sold on the medal ceremony in this deck either. I feel like the medal ceremony is meant for faster decks where they can't pull all your units off the board at once. And maybe it's just because of my play style. So maybe it's a play style thing for me. I do not like medal ceremony almost ever. Like I genuinely just like almost always would rather have a different card in my hand than that card. I've resourced that card so many times it's not even funny, and I stopped running it now.
Yeah, Medal Ceremony's kind of a weird card. It works well with Leia because you swing in with 2 people at once, and then they can only respond with 1 person, so you can get off a Medal Ceremony. I also agree. Like you have a bunch of smaller kind of units in a deck like this. Granted, it is really nice with like Ezra, make him up 4 or 5, and then also you're still swinging with the top deck Ezra stuff. Yeah. It's just, it's okay. I would eventually look to cut it. I actually have a list of some other cards to look out for if you want to add on to this deck. I think if you can find some choppers, I like them over R2D2.
Yep.
They are rare. It's just you have a couple specters in there. Well, you have another specter with Ezra, so you can kind of get off the raid, but it's just the discard a little bit more control. He's only a 1/3, but I think he's overall better than R2D2 in this case. If you manage to find some U-wing reinforcements, those are always really nice. I know it's Leia, so it's supposed to be a little bit faster, but it's yellow, so it might actually get out to 7 resources. And U-wing reinforcement with that glut of lower costed units is really nice. It's also really fun to I play a U-wing reinforcement. Here's Bright Hope Sentinel on this side. Here's Leia on this side. Exhaust one of your units, and you still have 1 left over for like R2D2 or Chopper. It works pretty well. Obviously, if you happen to get any legendaries, Millennium Falcon's not too bad. Change of Hearts would be pretty cool in this deck. And if you really want to go kind of mid-rangey, Home One is very, very nice. I probably wouldn't go with the Home One unless you're like kind of changing it up a little bit, but the Change of Heart is very good. Also, like Traitorous is green and neutral. Traitorous can sneak up on people, especially in like a Leia deck. No one would expect Treacherous. So for Treacherous and Traitorous, and Change of Heart, it actually helps against some bigger threats.
Yeah. The other card I didn't see you list, but the other card that my recommendation would be, and this is probably a sideboard one, but Spark of the Rebellion. And I don't care what I love Spark of the Rebellion. That is, I am a mill player, so that's part of the reason why I like that card. but it does two things. It allows you to look at somebody's hand and then allows you to discard a card. So if you're playing against a very fast deck, so if you're playing against, for example, like a Sabine type deck, and you can, it's a 2 cost. You do not need to play a unit with this Leia deck against like a Sabine deck specifically if you are able to get rid of one of their cards out of their hand. So like when they hand it to you and they're like, oh, I've got a 6 cost, a 3 cost, and a 2 cost. If you see that for a cause I believe in, chuck it. Like, see it gone. If you see a freedom fighter, it's gone. You know, I don't know about the A-Wing. The A-Wing I wouldn't worry about as much if you have that home 1 in there, because that home 1 will take care of that A-Wing too.
Yeah.
But really the big thing is the Spark of the Rebellion is like, to me, it is like the Viper probe droid of the rebels. And I don't know. I'm sad it's a yellow card. I really wish it was a white neutral card, because I would run it in every hero deck I run. That's how much I like that card.
Yeah.
I don't know about Sabine decks though, just because they'll have a bunch of like lower costed units, right? Like they'll have triple Rebel Pathfinder or something, you know. So like, I don't think you get much value out of it if you're. I mean, you get to see their hand, which is cool, but if they have like, you know, 3 units that are like functionally the same unit, you're not really doing too much. I'd rather play a unit.
I did yes and no. I mean, okay. So if I had it in my Palp deck, playing against that, I would easily, because I've watched the Bean decks where they could put stuff out and I could take care of what's on the board, and I still have resources left over sometimes. And if I had a 2 cost card that would discard a card out of their hand, it would, like, they have 2 cards in their hand, boom, now they're down to 1. Makes that force choke not super bad to play, right? So giving Sabine an extra card or Leia an extra card, then taking it out. Again, that's villain, but that's all I'm saying is, like, to me, I think, especially in this deck where you're going a little bit slower, I think that that Spark of the Rebellion for 2 costs is not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think sideboard is definitely where it belongs, because if you're going against more of a slower control style, that Spark of the Rebellion is really good. If you're like going against like a Green Iden, or I've pulled a Super Laser Blast out of someone's hand with Spark of the Rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
Which that saved my board.
Or an Overwhelming Barrage. Think about getting rid of one of those, right?
Right. So like, but like not aggro decks, which is why you kind of want to put it in the sideboard.
Fair enough.
Aggro decks, I think they either play most of the stuff in their hand or they're all functionally the same.
And I think the other thing that we missed too was the Falcons, right? I think putting a Falcon in there I think putting Falcons in there is worth it, but that's just me.
I agree. They're just legendary, so it's going to be a little bit hard to get.
Yeah. So if we're talking, so Alex, as we recap, if we're talking budget versus non-budget, we put Falcons in if it's non-budget, right? If you don't have Falcons, you don't have Falcon. I don't have Falcons. I literally, whatever. I don't have Falcons. I don't know how I've never pulled a Falcon ever, but I don't have any damn Falcons. So,
well, it is worth a note that Falcons aren't actually rebels. The Millennium Falcon,
true,
is not a rebel. So
that is true.
It does come and play ready, which helps. It's just like Han and Millennium Falcon and Chewie, they're not rebel units, so they don't exactly mesh perfectly with Leia. So it ends up being a little bit slower.
Yeah. And that was kind of their question is, how do you go after maximizing Leia? Do you go after maximizing Rebel synergy? Or are you kind of looking for like a mix of the two together?
I mean, if like 70 to 80% of your deck is Rebels, right? You're probably fine. Just sometimes Star Vipers, I think, like, is a good example of that. Like, they're not Rebels, but you do kind of need a space presence. So I recommend like between 9 and 12 space units seems to be like typically what you run. Sometimes it'll be up on the higher end if it's like the Devastator and the Avengers, right? Just to kind of get you to there. Or you could be JJ and just run like 30 of them.
I mean, and that strafing gunship, if you have those strafing gunships, I mean, that is a 4 cost, like, and it's not a rebel, but like that is also a really good if you're going to run a little bit heavier, and you want to be able to have that space presence, but also deal with the other side of the board.
Yeah, it's really good for knocking out Sentinel units.
Yeah,
like
super
it takes
nice.
care of Cell Block Guard with only 1 damage back. Echo-based defenders, you only take 2 back.
Yeah.
You know, those are the big ones, right? You could still do some work with them.
Yeah, they're nice. I like them. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other critiques before we move on?
No, I mean, just make sure, you know, try to go for some sort of objective, right? There's some sort of cohesive design with your deck.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Dragon King, for sending that over. I don't know if I'm supposed to use your real name or not, so I won't. But thank you so much for sending over a deck. If you would like to submit a deck, you can either reach out to me on Discord privately, or you can go on our Planning Phase Syndicate Discord. And we have a new SWU section that I introduced and kind of put out there. It's going to have spoilers coming in there, and you're able to make I think there's a spot on there. If not, we'll create a channel. But I believe there's a spot on there for deck lists and stuff like that. And it allow you to go ahead and put in there your recommendations for what you would like. And you could just tag me or JJ or Alex in the Discord, and we'll make sure to get your list added to the doc for one of our weekly shows. So, all right, why don't we move on to our Galactic news? We're going to have our Galactic Gazette. If you're all ready, we got some spoilers. All right, welcome to our spoilers. This is not ones that came directly from our podcast, but ones that we were alerted to this week. So we'll see how long we have for time, if we have enough time to get through every spoiler. I put every spoiler in for the whole set, but I know for a fact we're going to go over the ones that they just released this weekend. This week. I'm very excited about Crosshair. I don't like the fact that he has a 4 cost to play, but I do love him as a unit. Crosshair comes in as a green-black unit, and he has 2 actions on him. Not 1, but 2. You could take 2 different actions, and only one of them you have to exhaust. So the first action is you spend 2 resources, and this unit gets +1 attack for the phase, that's pretty good if you really want to spend the extra money. I don't usually see 2 resources for 1 extra damage. Super amazing. But the next piece is when you action, this unit deals damage equal to his power to a ground unit as well. So you can essentially take 2 turns, spend 2 resources, and do 3 damage to a unit without having to take any of the damage back. So that means he could technically live longer without actually using his attack. Again, I think it's better. He's probably going to be better suited with upgrades than to spend 2 resources. But
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
I think we will kind of see how that goes. But I love the fact that he has 6 health. Like, he is that thing is a beast. All right, what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think this card definitely works well with ranked decks. You know, that can get out a lot of resources faster, because if you are planning to use his action to increase his attack, and mind you, you have to spend 2 resources, and it only lasts for that particular phase. So by the time you go to the next round, it goes back to his normal base power. So using upgrades to up his attack is the best way to do it. I mean, it's a good way to take out units without him having to take any damage there. So, I mean, that's a great snipe ability for what he can do. But it also only affects ground units, so you can't do it to like bases and stuff. I mean, pretty good to take out sentinels. I'm really interested to see what the other hopefully, if they do it, the rest of the Clone Force 99, when they come out the Bad Batch, to see if they synergize with this particular ability, like specifically like helping you recover a resource so that we can spend it to improve Crosshair. But yeah, we'll see.
JJ, he's a villain. You're not going to get other villain there's only one Bad Batch villain. That's it.
Well, I don't. Okay, we can't go into spoilers, but I mean, at least maybe there'll be a different version of him where he won't be, but he also didn't start off as a villain. But
Yeah,
I
but
don't,
I'm telling
I
you,
don't
is
want to
he
go. I don't want to go too deep within spoilers, but yeah.
okay? So JJ, I'll grant you that he could be a rebel unit, yes, but I'm telling you right now that there is no other Bad Batch units that are going to be villain. They can't be like we don't have those. They don't exist right now.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah, well, and sorry, there could be commanders from that show that get affected as well, but
There you
very
go.
unlikely.
That
Very
might be
unlikely. Yeah, yeah.
that's better. Alex, your thoughts?
So, mm, it is cool that the action to give them +1/+0 for the face is not a once per turn because it doesn't exhaust them or anything. So if you have a ton of resources and nothing to play for whatever reason, you can pump them up to like 4 or 5 or whatever. It is cool that he can like snipe things out. I am very interested in playing him with a Grand Inquisitor deck because he does have a lot of health. Not a lot of attacks, so you can like spend 2 resources, snipe someone for 3, and then Grand Inquisitor, he takes 2 damage, pop him back up, shoot someone else for another 3, or pump him even to 4 and then do that. It's kind of cool. He seems really expensive for a 4 drop. He doesn't seem like he does a lot. Like non-reciprocating damage is really good. But you bump him up to 3 or 4 attack. He's not really doing too much for a 4 there.
And think about it this way: what happens when somebody waylays them? Right?
Yeah.
Like, can you
right.
imagine spending 8 or 6 resources and then somebody goes, "Oh, let me waylay that for you." You're like, "Oh."
I mean, he is undamaged. He is immune to takedown, so that's helpful. That does keep him around for a little bit longer. He just seems very slow for his point total for me, honestly. Although, again, a Grand Inquisitor might be pretty interesting for him.
Yeah, that was my thought too. Is I think he fits very well in a Grand Inquisitor deck. I can't remember if IG-88 is going to affect him a lot. I guess I should probably pull up those cards and look at them too.
I mean, IG-88 just gives him raid, right? So you get more units.
True. I don't know. I think we'll see. We don't, again, we're making spoiler comments based and we don't even have all the leaders. Like, I really wish they would just give us all the leaders first and then give us them. But that would be, like, that probably wouldn't be a good thing to do, but it would be really fun for me. Right. So,
no, we'll see what he does. Again, he seems a little bit slow, but this set does seem to have a lot of upgrades. So maybe if you give him, some stronger attack upgrades, he could start sniping for a lot of damage.
yeah. And if you can keep him away from, again, like in Boba Green too, Boba Green will benefit from this a little bit because Boba doesn't care as much about resource costs. Like, so a 4 cost can be played sometimes twice in a turn. And he can kind of initiate a little bit of what Boba does, right? So without losing, you're not losing him like you are other units. You spend your 2 costs, he's down, you spend your 2 costs, and he's now with 3. He actions and kills off something else, and then Boba gets to get a resource card back, or if Boba's on the table, he gets 2 resource cards after he attacks. It's just, I don't know. I think it's interesting. Grand Inquisitor probably benefits the best so far, but I think Boba Green, this could be a Boba Green. I can see this card in Boba Green quite a bit. So, well, let's move on. Who wants to take Cartel Turncoat? The next card that we have.
I'll can do that. Or go, JJ, go.
All right.
Go,
So
JJ, go.
He's a yellow and clear aspect here. He has the keyword bounty. It says draw a card when this unit is defeated or captured. Your opponent collects his bounty, and he comes with 2 attack and 3 health, and a 1 cost there. I guess he's a filler, but as far as I know, the bounty itself, right, it would only happen when that event happens, not when you play it. Correct?
Yeah, when his he's defeated or captured.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, probably not a very strong card. I mean, one cost, okay, sure. If you're gonna put him in your deck just to ink him, or sorry, not to ink him, to resource him, sure. But beyond that, there are a lot better one cost options there.
Is there? That's a 1-cost 2-hit 3 health unit that could come down
Yeah,
turn
that
1.
gives a card to my opponent, which I want to make sure they have less cards. So yeah, no, I'm okay.
I think this card's incredible. I think this is that's a very strong card, honestly.
I don't
For
know,
one
man. I mean,
cost?
when you start looking at the amount of decks that like to play fast, right? They like to play, or sorry, aggressive decks that like to play fast. They really rely on having cards in their hand. And so you start taking a look at like Boba Fett decks or Han decks, decks that require them to have, cheap units in their hand to play out, so that way they can go overwhelm the board. And those units tend to have high enough attack where a two attack 3 health is really not much difficult for them to take out, especially red decks that have the ability to knock out a unit fairly quickly. So I think having this, although it is very cheap and it has a 2/3, can backfire, because if I can spend a card to draw a better card and I have enough resources, it's kind of more of a negative to me. I don't want to provide a benefit to my opponent for killing somebody. I get is a passive like Sentinel type ability, because you want to take out this card instead of like a more high value target that's there. And of course, it can be buffed with some of the other units, but still, just providing that additional card that could be a potential resource for them, or a particular card that can help them do something more controlling on the board, is a little tough. So,
Oh, I think like your opponent's card draw is significantly less good in this card game than like pretty much every other TCG, especially because you draw 2 at your end. So just having like a 2/3 for 1 is super good. Like we were just talking about the green yellow Leia deck. I would throw this in a heartbeat, just because you have space presence. You have something that's not going to get one shot, and if it does, it's like for an Ozatok, right? It's something that it trades really well, even though you give up a card. And I think it's just really strong just to have. I mean, there's a lot of turns where you just end up with like one resource left over, right? I think just that 2/3 for 1 is just really efficient. And also, JJ, like, let's say you happen to draw 2 of them in your opening hand, like a starting board of two threes is really good, especially in space.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine getting 2 of these opening hand and just playing both of them? Like that's pretty that's like ramp without wanting to be ramp,
And it actually has some decent synergy with the Vanguard Ace, which is also a yellow heroism card. That's just every time you play a card. Well, when you play Vanguard Ace, you get an experience for every card you played before it. So if you have like 4
oh, that's fair.
resources, like just 4 resources, you're dropping 2/2/3s and then a 3/3 for 4 resources.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Alex, Unexpected Escape. It's a trick card, by the way, which we've seen that subtext before. But I want to point that out because that is important for specific yellow decks that have trick in there on some of their cards. So, what is this specific card?
It is a 1-cost blue event that you exhaust a unit and you may rescue a captured unit guarded by that unit.
It's a 1-cost to exhaust a unit.
Yes.
Oh
That's insane. Insanely good.
I don't even care about the second part of the text. I literally only care that I can exhaust a unit for 1 cost. To me, this is a staple. That's a great card for 1 cost.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
I don't know how much exhausting you're trying to do in blue. But yeah, it's not bad.
I mean, you can open up a Thrawn blue deck, right? Just saying.
Couple exhausts, yeah, sure. I just yeah, I mean, it's not bad by any means. I think you guys are a little bit overhyping it, but it's fine. It's fine.
All right. Also noted, it is an uncommon, so it'll be pretty popular. Same with, I guess we haven't done that, and I think that's something that we should probably point out. Crosshair is an uncommon. Cartel Churncoat is a common, which means everybody's going to get that card. So I think that's we need to point that out as we kind of move along here. This uncommon Unexpected Escape might be a little bit harder to get, for a draft or a sealed. Because that's kind of the other piece that we're missing is we're only talking about competitive play where you build a deck. In like a draft or a sealed, I think both Crosshair and Unexpected Escape have a higher stock value if you can get them. But you're not going to get 3 of them in a draft. You should know.
Yeah.
All right, the next one we got is a rare. It's the first rare that we're talking about tonight called Hot Shot DL44 Blaster. It is a 1 cost attached to a non-vehicle unit. It gains Smuggle for 3 cost, 3 resources, and I'm guessing that's yellow. I don't know. I've issues seeing colors sometimes. When played using Smuggle, you can attack with attached unit. So essentially, the way the card works is you can attach it if you want for your 1 cost, or you could pay 4 and use the Smuggle action and also attack with that unit, correct?
Yeah.
Well, you need 3 for Smuggle, but it is worth noting that it's a yellow resource spend, and this is a red card, which I think is super, super cool. So if you had, like, if you're out of aspect with yellow, you'd end up paying more.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can only use it in like a red yellow deck, and if not, you'd be paying 5.
Yeah, that's what it seems, right?
Okay.
Which I think is a really cool design space, just to like not like railroad people to certain decks, just have different options. Because just a normal red deck without the yellow aspect, it's a +2 for 1 upgrade, which is okay. But if you have a yellow deck, you can smuggle it in and then play it out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they get +2 attack, which is very on theme for yellow.
Yeah, I like it. I think we had a Hot Shot Blaster in Destiny, and it did not do this, but there was a Hot Shot Blaster that it was like a 2 cost, and you could add it to something, and it would like snap. It is like kind of like a snapshot a little bit.
We should also explain the Smuggle keyword, because that's new, right?
Yes. What is Smuggle, Alex?
Smuggle is if this card is a resource, you can play it for its Smuggle cost, and then you replace it with the top card of your deck.
Yeah. So think of it this way. So yeah, you're right. We should have just gone through that article first before we did spoilers. But so that introduces like a whole new aspect to the game, right? Where now you're able to, like, before we never looked at resources. You just put it down. You never ever looked at them. Now, like, that's crazy, because now you're going to put it down and somebody's going to go, hold on, let me check my Smuggles. Like, slow play alert tenfold here, baby. Like, let me look at every one of my, I don't have any Smuggles. Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be funny because everybody sorts their resources different too when you play against them. Like, I always put mine in a pile, and then I slightly fan it, and then I pull the ones out I need and turn them sideways and set them aside. Whereas other people like stack them in like sets of 3 I've seen, and some people put them all laid out like across the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I like the Smuggle keyword personally. But I do like this design space as well, that it's not just something you include in every red deck. It's saying, hey, hold on a second. If you want all this fancy stuff, you have to have it in yellow as well. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. JJ, what is this new Mandalorian card? And then Alex, you're going to have to tell us what Mandalorian is. So,
Nice. So we got a 2 cost event card called This Is the Way. It has keyword Mandalorian. It says search the top 8 cards of your deck for up to 2 Mandalorian and or upgrade cards. Reveal them and draw them. Put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in random order. If I'm correct, that means anything that has the subtext there of Mandalorian, both either unit or item or events. You can draw it and then shuffle the rest in the bottom.
Yeah, and then you can also, split that. It could be like 1 Mandalorian, 1 upgrade. That's what the end were. So
yeah. So this set almost feels like we're moving, like, let's give us some upgrades, correct? Like that's kind of what this kind of feels like, is we're gonna move into some sort of an upgrade. Now, I don't want to say meta because that's silly, but like we're gonna move into an upgrade style of play is going to become viable, or they want it to become viable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fair amount of upgrades, and then like, this seems to add like smuggle and bounty, and a couple other more interesting design aspects.
Yeah.
Also of note, it can search itself because it is a Mandalorian card. So if you're really trying to dig, you can pull that one and something else.
You go through 16 cards like of your deck in 2 turns. That's that's crazy. That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. I don't know. I'm not going to be sold on this. I guess I want to know. I'll have to wait and see how many upgrades, but I will tell you this art, like, give me every hyperspace that you get. JJ, if you pull any hyperspace of these cards, we immediately trade. I'm giving you a bunch of stuff. So okay. I want all of your hyperspace. Just this card in hyperspace is just going to look so good. I'm sorry. Like, I don't get off on much of the artwork. Like, I don't care. It's not like super big for me, but I'm telling you, this one for hyperspace is going to be super insane.
Yeah.
So every hyperfoil you get and every hyperspace you get are mine, and you can have all my non ones.
Okay.
All right. Who's next? Vigilant Pursuit Craft.
Me. We got a Lancer. It's great.
I know, it looks so good too. Look at that.
Yeah. That's really nice art. So you get the Vigilant Pursuit Craft, which is a 5 cost, just normal blue space unit, and 3/5. It's Sentinel and has a smuggle, 7 blue resources to smuggle it in, I guess, somehow, a spaceship that you're smuggling. Yeah, so it's a 3/5 for 5 Sentinel unit, which isn't too bad because it's space. They're always going to be a little underpowered in terms of attack and health. It is very frustrating that now they have 2 units, 2 Sentinel space units. But I like the just smuggling for 7. Because the smuggle, not sure if you guys realize this, but when you smuggle and pay for the resources, you can use the one that you're smuggling in to pay for the cost.
Yes, it's like Han cheating.
Right.
It's like how Han cheats everything. Yes. It's stupid.
It is pretty nice to just kind of, it doesn't like affect too much because, any card you resource is always exhausted unless stated otherwise. So when you're playing it off the top, it's still exhausted, but you can like kind of cheat out a little bit of a resource for that.
Yeah.
So in case you need
it's a common too.
Right. So in case you need it, you can have a Sentinel ship. I think that's kind of cool. I don't think it's like a particularly amazing ship. Just Sentinel space units are such a pain to get through, though.
Yeah, especially right now. So
yeah.
All right, the next one, Privateer Crew, and I have to say, like, does anybody see a X-Men character in this? Like, it feels like they put an X-Men character in this, and I don't know if you've watched the new X-Men 97 series.
Are you talking about Jubilee?
Well, it's a little bit Jubilee, but if you look at, just remember, I don't know, I think it's episode 3 or 4 where they're in that one factory with the Sentinel hand, and Cyclops is like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't want to give too much away. I mean, I don't know. The show's been out for like a month now, but like, there's people in there that look like this person. It's not just Jubilee. Jubilee, it does look like Jubilee a little bit, but like, come on, like, this is very X-Men oriented, and look at the background of it. Like, doesn't that like Greedo guy look like he's almost as tall as the building? Like, I know it's not supposed to, but
It's
that's what it
it's
looks like to
perspective.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry. We have Underworld, which is not a new subtext. We had that a little bit before, but this is a straight green 2-cost card. It's a 2/2. You can also smuggle this for 6. 6. I don't understand why you would do this. Other than it gives the experience points out. So I guess this is a great card to say, hey, I don't need this today, but when I get farther into my deck, I'll need it because I can pay 6 and then I can give 3 experience tokens to something, which can be really clutch late game if you are either looking to close the game out or to stop. Like you have a sentinel unit on the board that we just talked about and you want to give it like 3 extra health.
No, Privateer Crew only gives it to itself.
Yeah.
Oh, it becomes a 5/5 for 6 if you smuggle it in.
All right, well then I just lost all interest in this card. I'm sorry. Well, smuggle for 6 just seems silly, but I think for the 2 costs, just a standard like 2/2, I think it's an okay card. I don't know. I don't see anything revolutionary about this card though.
Yeah, I mean it has a potential, especially if you draw a late game. But even then, paying 6 for 5/5, I think you probably get better cards for that cost.
Yeah, I mean, like Gideon Hask is like a 5/5 for 5, right? And
Yeah,
he grows with more units that kill. And then like Leia is a 2/2 for 2, but she either readies a resource or exhausts a card. So the curve isn't great with this one. It's just you can play it out of your resources.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things. I think understanding that aspect and how that's going to change the game is key, because I think that's a very big aspect that we're gonna see change a lot of decks. And I don't want to get into it tonight. I think maybe next week, depending on how many spoilers we have, we can actually talk a little bit about that next week, I think, on how we feel Smuggle changes the game. And we'll go through the article a little bit next week as well to kind of go more in depth on how we feel it affects the game. I think that this is a game changer, not this card, but the Smuggle effect. So,
yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to have someone like Donald Glover's Lando or something, right? Interact like have their leader ability interact with smuggle. Like if you smuggle a card, give some experience token out or heal 2 or do 2 damage to something, right? So it'd be interesting if you want to load that deck up with like a bunch of smuggles to try to play that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That feels like an Alex deck for sure. All right, let's move on to the next one. Our next common is Timely Intervention. JJ, what is this card?
So we got another event card here. 1 cost here. It reads, play a unit from your hand and give it ambush for this phase. When you play it, it may ready and attack enemy units. It also comes with smuggle for 2. And if this card is a resource, you may play it as a smuggle cost, replace it with the top card of your deck. I mean, it can be nice to get one of those, especially later on in the game when you have some of those like high attacking units in there, to play them as an ambush, so that we don't have to wait till like the next turn for them to ready up. It can enable some pretty aggressive play that way. Probably really good with raid units as well that get a buff when they attack. So it's a good way to get those units out quickly and make sure that they're good. Definitely really good if you already have a boosting unit in there, like a Dodana, for instance, on the board that helps boost like a rebel character. You can deal a pretty good attack, or at least launch a pretty good attack with it there. What do you think? Probably good with Sabine, I would say.
I was thinking Luke. Can you imagine playing a Luke
Luke
on the table with this?
Good point. Yeah.
I think this card is bonkers, man. This is nuts.
It's really good.
It's kind of like ECL, right? I mean, you have to pay 1 for it, and they don't have to like cost 6 or less. I just think it's like it's fine for 1, but I think the smuggle is what really makes it good, because it's not like your opponent put this card down, right? You don't know that your opponent resourced this. So just having just the ability for someone to just ambush one of your units off completely unexpected with something is crazy. Also, if you really want to be like super the most high roll that you can do, you could use this on a Devastator.
Oh, ew.
Oh, yeah.
Ew, that's disgusting.
Need a lot of resources for that, but it is really funny just to ambush a Devastator and do 11 damage somewhere else, and then just roll in for 10 with Overwhelm. I mean, that's probably not going to happen. But just like smuggling that is just so strong. It's such a crazy surprise factor, and like your opponent cannot account for that.
Yeah, especially if you can use your resource, so you churn that and your other one, pull it and then dump it. I mean, just being able to, I don't know, like just being able to take out, like, again, a Luke at 7, being able to come in, attack for his value, and then turn around and restore for 3. That's super good. Like, I know that's probably a niche situation, but I don't know that. Or how about a mace? Does mace get double ambush? I guess that you probably can't have double ambush.
Not how it works.
All right,
but it's just I think like putting it like mid level units, so it's not like crazy. But having like bays.
How about a K2SO?
Yeah, K2SO would be great. Like bays, right? If you have the initiative, you can play that. He has grit, so he comes in swinging for 2, takes a couple damage back, but you have the initiative. Now he's Sentinel, and now he's swinging back into you at like 4, right? I think it's really good for like mid-level units, or like Kanan.
Kanan's a good one,
yeah. Like it's just very versatile. I don't think it's like the greatest card ever, but man, that works. It hits. You use it for Fifth Brother, just whatever kind of mid-level units you want. It can just clear some boards.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we miss, that we talk about, is like there's a strategy piece of this, right? And you're playing with a 50 card deck essentially. Like, yes, you could play with a higher card count, and I think maybe that's going to be a discussion point that we're going to have to go through. Like, is it going to ever be worth taking 55 or 60 card decks ever? Like, that's going to become a discussion point at some point. Like, this type of a thing, like you lose some of your ability to change and do these, like consistency, right? Like 50 cards gives you a very consistent style deck. When does that taper off? When do we get that bell curve for consistency? And I think that's a discussion point with Smuggle, right? And some of these other things is this piece right here. I think this is I'll be honest. I feel that this card is a little bit higher of a curve. Like it's for one cost, it's really good. Like giving somebody just an ambush, it does cost you an extra card, right? So you are essentially if you're not drawing extra cards, that's 2 cards for whatever the cost is. And it does affect. But mid-game, it's not as big of a deal. If you have 5 cards in your hand, what do you care if you have to play 2 of them? Or if you're going to smuggle it and it doesn't even cost you that extra card, I don't know. Like for only $1 extra, I don't know. And really, if you think about it, you're not actually paying. You're kind of not paying 2 because you're getting another card back of your deck. I don't know what it's going to be. What'll be the aspect if you take that card off the top of your deck and it's a good card? Like, are you going to be pissed? Like, what if you take a Han or something and it's like, oh, there goes my Han, or oh, there goes my Vader, or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's always going to be the risk for anything that replaces itself with the top deck. There's been way too many times than really should be statistically possible where I've resourced like a home one with just my Han leader. That feels bad, but
yeah,
I guess that's why you find multiple copies, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is we don't understand, or we don't know yet. I'm a gambling person, so I am drawn more specifically to this type of a card because I like to gamble. I really guess I should probably play your Han deck, especially because I have Han Showcase. So maybe I should just play it because I just really like gambling aspect. But that's what this is. This deck has a problem. I don't feel that this card is going to be so broken. Like it's not like an ECL type thing right now, where there's a high, like you just have you're just able to do like all sorts of crazy stuff. I think this one has a lower ceiling threshold to like what it can actually push out and do. But we don't know yet. you might have even more broken cards that we just don't know that it might affect. So, well, all right. Well, I think I don't know. We went through spoilers. I feel like we could probably do a whole nother episode. So I will end the show here, I guess. We have other spoilers we need to get through that we missed from before and stuff like that. But if you do have a user list, I think that's going to be kind of the bigger focus. Like if you have something you want us to tweak or you want us to talk through, send us the list. That is probably one of the more fun parts about this that I missed. Like when I went to X-Wing from Destiny, I like deck building with Destiny. And like I've been told before, get out of X-Wing if you want a deck build, because it's better to list build in a card game. And so here I am. I'm in a card game now. That's the piece of the part that I genuinely like, even though I usually just steal Alex's decks and tweak them a little bit to more my play style. Not because I'm better at playing them, but because I have a different play style than Alex does typically. But I don't know. I like the deck building thing aspect of it, and I like to be able to spend time thinking about and talking through strategy pieces. And I think that's where this card game is introducing us. Like we're in set 2 and we're not even 6 months into the game and we've already got a whole new like mode of playing with Smuggle. Like I don't know, that seems pretty cool. That's pretty ingenious to begin with. You're going to throw whatever meta, and I'll do it in quotes because we don't have a meta right now. But whatever meta exists is going to get thrown completely out the window once that 2 hits. It's just whatever. Like whatever you thought was good, you have to go back and relook at all these cards. So I don't know. I'm having fun. I don't know about you guys, but it's been fun.
Excited. Yeah.
If you don't know who we are Plating Phase Syndicate. We have a X-Wing podcast and a Swoop podcast now, both 9 and 10 p.m. respectively, every Sunday night live. If you would like to join us, make comments in the chat, do whatever you want. We will be doing that. I don't know. Anything else, guys, before we wrap it up for the night?
No. Just looking forward to Store Showdowns coming up next month.
Yep. The one thing I'm sad about is we don't have the roll better like style or pattern analyzer that we have in X-Wing. Damn it. Like I am so like I've talked to Eek Pair and Eek Pair is not like he doesn't want to jump on board with this. And that's because they're like FFG is just like we got something like coming, we don't have it yet. And we need it. We need it now. I need my data, FFG. That's what I need. I need some data, baby. I love me some data. So all right. With that being said, thank you all for joining us tonight. We will be back next week with hopefully more spoilers. If not, we have old spoilers that we can cover. I do think we missed Wanted. That was one that we did miss. I don't know if that was a preview from this week or not. But we do have a couple other spoilers that we didn't get through. And then a couple of leaders that we haven't talked about yet, if they're going to affect the meta that we have or not. With that being said, thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the Flippity Flop.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.